I am Doug Friedman.
And I am Meredith Levy.
And this is Your Mental Breakdown,
the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast where you are going to hear us chatting for a while, and then you will hear a real session with a real client in full.
Yep. And then after that, you're going to hear Doug and myself break it down.
That's right. And we are both licensed psychotherapists here for your amusement.
And maybe some helpful information at times.
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Are we here for them or are we here for us? I feel like it's a little bit of both.
It is definitely a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I feel like if we weren't here for us, how can we be there for them?
Ooh, that's deep. How can I help anyone if I can't help myself? That's true.
Yeah. And you have helped yourself all the way to Colorado. How's it going?
It is mostly good. I think I told you last week we got snow.
Right.
And that was awesome. I mean, LA boy, seeing snow. It's novelty to me. It's amazing to me. I've lived in snow when I lived in DC.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you talking about?
Right. But I've forgotten, like there are three things that I can't stand about this kind of climate and this kind of weather. Number one, in no particular order, is when the snow on the ground turns to ice.
Yeah,
and you have to walk. Like that's, I mean, yeah, of course. But I forget about that. I'm just kind of walking the trails with Beckett and seeing him skid out and myself. Like I nearly ate it several times on the trail. Like, oh, wow, you have to pay attention. And that was in DC, it was walking around just sidewalks because DC is not well equipped to deal with snow. They just don't know how to do it.
You have to get those shoes that have spikes in them so that you can climb up the side of a mountain.
I was almost going to wear my golf shoes. And then I realized I don't have golf shoes. But,
okay, what's number two?
Number two, that's doo-doo. Sorry, you know, number two.
Yeah, I got it.
Number two is when it's cold and sunny. Like when you see snow outside and there's sun shining, it doesn't make sense to me. Like it's supposed to be warm, right?
You don't like when it's beautiful out and snowy?
No. I love that. But my brain has a hard time processing when it's a beautiful sunny day outside. I'm used to California weather where it's supposed to be, 75 at the lowest.
Sure.
And you open the door and it's 25 degrees out. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. I think, well, the sun's there. It's really bright. Right. Why is it not melting the snow and warming me up? It doesn't make sense. Yeah,
you just got to do a little science reading on that, Doug, and you'll see why.
You and your science. You and your science and your climate change, I don't know.
If it makes you feel better, it is almost 80 here. 75-ish.
Yeah, 75 is okay. You're on the west side near the ocean, so you get the breeze.
Yeah. And what's number three?
Number three is wind. I do not like wind, especially when it's wind chill. And I remember watching sports, they'd be like, oh, it's, Lambeau Field in Green Bay. It's 25 degrees out, but with the wind chill, it's negative 12. I'm like, what? I'm used to California where we've got like the Santa Ana winds and it's a nice warm breeze that blows through.
Yeah.
Wind, I think I dislike wind as much as you dislike rain. Ooh.
Well, and wind when it's snowing, like when it's really snowing and it's windy and the snow flakes are now pelting you in the face. Not fun.
Well, also right after the snow that we had here, wind was blowing and it wasn't snowing, but it blew all off the trees and we just got like a rush of snow all over us. And it was wonderfully horrible.
It sounds amazing.
That wind, I mean, driving in the wind freaks me out because I can feel the car moving and the howling like, oh.
Yeah, no, I don't drive in the rain or wind. I just thought that was a given.
To me, it's the most unpredictable of the elements. Like fire, sure. Rain, snow, sun, like those are all like predictable. Like, when it's sunny, it's sunny. Wind, you don't know how hard it's going to be, where it's coming from, when it's going to gust and not.
I'm going to say fire is really not that predictable, especially with the wind.
Right. But see there, it's the wind.
I know.
It's the wind
You're right.
messes it up. I don't mind breaking wind. I just don't like the wind.
I mind you breaking wind anywhere around me.
Oh, that's why we're remote.
Actually, this next weekend, I'm going up to Tahoe, to Lake Tahoe again, just for a handful of days. And my dad mentioned something about skiing. And I was like, what? Skiing? Because it already started snowing up there. But I think the resorts, most of them don't open until like the last week in November or something.
Oh, wow.
So then I had to Google, like, are we actually fucking having a ski season this year? Because how is that happening? And what I read was like, it's just super complex, having to social distance in the lift line.
Oh, right.
You have to wear a mask. You have to buy, some places, you have to buy tickets ahead of time online.
Are they going to limit tickets? Like lift tickets?
Yeah. And here's the worst part of the whole thing is that the lodge, some of them are either going to be closed or they're going to have like a maximum amount of time you can spend in there, like 15, 20 minutes, something where you just like go in. I'm like, the way I ski is I go on like 3 runs and then I sit in the lodge with a hot toddy for like an hour. And then I go back out on another run or 2. Then I come back in the lodge. Like what? So not going skiing anytime soon.
That was my favorite part. Being a kid, we'd go to, Big Bear and Mammoth, or when I was in New Hampshire seeing family, there was a resort out there, and going into the lodge was the best part of the day.
Absolutely.
Skiing or snowboarding, sure, that's great. Although, in my late 20s, when I was snowboarding quite a bit, lift tickets got expensive. Now they're insane.
Oh my God.
I'll tell you what I remember. You can tell me how wrong I am on this. But I remember, and I was very frugal then, still am, that a lift ticket, I think in Big Bear, was like $50 for the day. If you did a half day, it was only $25.
Right.
Like, great, I'll do a half day and maximize, what I'm doing.
Totally.
It's $25. That's great. I've got friends now who tell me like, oh, dude, you can't get a lift ticket for under $100 now.
I don't think you can. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Pretty sure. I know.
It's crazy.
It's like Disneyland, dude.
Disneyland?
Is like over $100 for a ticket.
Shut the front door. Really?
How do you not know that?
I don't know. Because you bring in like a Pepsi can and you get like $20 off, or you're a California.
Oh my
resident,
God.
you get like 15%
I do not know.
off.
I don't think that's true anymore, but let me see how much it is.
It used to be
$110 on regular days, $124 on peak days.
To that I say, is there such thing as a peak day right now?
Disneyland's closed right now.
Yeah, I think it's the opposite of peak day. What's the opposite of a peak? A valley?
Yeah, this is a valley year.
Yeah, we've got deep depths of despair days.
Oh my God. Think about how much fun we make of the valley. That's a valley. Death Valley is a valley. All the valleys are the opposite of peaks, and peaks are good.
Maybe valleys aren't that bad, right?
Maybe. Speaking of good and bad.
Oh, look at you. With the segue. There it is.
We have a session coming up.
We do have a session coming up. And in case you haven't been listening, well, you probably have been listening. Otherwise, what the hell are you doing here?
Literally.
We just did something cool on the website where we broke it down into season 1, season 2, and then the inside outs, so people can find season 1 more easily. So if they haven't heard, they can go back to the beginning. I almost want to go listen to his first episode, his first session, but that's our first episode. I have a feeling
we don't want to hear our first episode.
We were like correcting each other's grammar. We were. I mean, not that we're super pro right now, but
no, but yeah,
we were quite green.
What if we go listen to it and we're even better back then? That would be bad.
If you're picking up from where we are right now, then Drew is gearing up for his brother's wedding, which is coming up in a few weeks. He has a fairly recent breakup with girlfriend and is just kind of feeling himself out and getting back to his own and what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. So you will hear some of what he's going through in that sense in this session coming right up.
We'll be back.
I think we talked about kind of like that idea last week of focusing more on like the good things and not going more so to like that bad side of things,
right.
Which I was thinking on my way in here today is I'm really trying to focus and like pinpoint all the good stuff in my life. Like I got a lot of good out of these last 2 months.
Right.
And so I'm seeing that. And so I'm really trying to focus on like pinpointing good because I have a big next step to make. And I know that. Mm-hmm. And I know this next kind of season of my life is going to be really important for like the longer seasons of my life. And so I'm really trying to go into it in like a clear mind, full heart, can't lose type of mentality.
Yeah, that's fun. That's what my practice is called. But that idea of just like quiet all of that, be present for this.
Well, and I think that's what this is for me. Allowing myself to at least once a week, usually more, I take what we do in here and do it outside, but it allows me to chill for an hour and get what I need to get out, which is like really nice because then I can walk out and have a clear mind and go do what I need to do.
Yeah, and I think that is, you're right, a function of like being able to quiet that noise and go into something.
And I think that's where I'm at right now too, in trying to figure out what the next move is, because I'm super motivated and I'm super like anxious to get to that next step. I just don't know which one is the right one to do right now. I've been trying different things. One in my routine of like just trying different routines day to day. I'll try it for like a couple of days. What does it look like? How do I feel after it? Plugging different things in day to day. Yeah. Some good, some bad, figuring that out kind of as I go.
And allowing yourself like, oh, that wasn't so good. Oh, okay, I'll try something different next time.
Right. And with like that routine aspect, I've seen like I started reading in the mornings, and that kind of gives me like I drink coffee, read my book, kind of get my day going, which has been like super healthy. But then I'll also find myself smoking bowls in the morning now because I can, and it's like, and now I'm finding, for the last like 2-3 weeks, it's been like an everyday, all day kind of thing where it's just like I don't even get stoned really at this point. And it's just like, I don't want to say masking, but it's just kind of like a routine. It's just like I wake up, do it, go to work, do my thing, come home, smoke, work out, do my thing all over again. And I've realized that like, that's a bad habit. For me, it is. So I've been getting lazy. I'm getting really lazy and I'm tired. I don't think I'm as vulnerable when I'm stoned as when I'm like clear-headed. And that's what I don't like about it.
How present are you?
Not very. Like I'm there, but it's not like long lasting.
I just flashed on 2 things. 1, the surfing, and 2, the blackout. Like, and not blackout when you're like, whoa, what just happened? Yeah. Right? That sensation that you get and being present on a surfboard, if you just got up in the morning, smoked a bowl, went out there and surfed, you'd be like, yeah, that was good surf. How was it? Did you get that joy feeling? Meh. Yeah. Because it's just that routine. It's just the thing I do. And it works both ways. It could happen like at the gym. I'm working out. I'm like, well, how was the workout? Did you feel the burn? Like, I don't know, but I just did my reps. Yeah. Okay. So it's not necessarily a bad thing everywhere you go. Rather than calling it bad, it's just ineffective because I'm not how I want to be. Yeah. It's not serving me right now.
And I like how you said it, ineffective. Because it's not necessarily a bad routine. Right. It's just not progressing me anywhere. I like that. I like the ineffective mentality. And then it's not a negative either. It allows me space to kind of like still try it, do what I need to do, and not feel guilty on the other side of it. Right. Because I feel like most of my life when I try new routines for myself, it's like, well, what do I want to do? And I always find repercussion somewhere. Whereas now it's like being alone and doing all my own shit. It's like I don't have that pressure other than my own. And I think for me, on a self-confidence level, thinking of it in an ineffective way changes it completely. Completely.
How so for you?
Along the lines of allowing myself room for disappointment. The ineffective isn't, oh, you did bad, oh, you shouldn't do that, oh, don't ever do that again. It's like, okay, that's not what you wanted to do. Right. What do you want it? What's going to be effective? What's going to progress me? And like, what's going to keep me going? Right. And now, I got to find what those are. But I like effective a lot more than ineffective.
Yeah. I think it's perfect because as I was telling you about failed private practice, I can fail and that's okay. Right. It wasn't bad. It was ineffective. And it helped me hone what would be more effective. Right. And for you, kind of looking at, okay, what do I want to do today? Well, I smoked a bowl and it that wasn't the most effective. So tomorrow, let me try not doing that. Is that more effective? Okay, cool. And it's a constant learning and growth process. Yeah. If you look at it that way, then you're constantly growing, constantly learning. And it's a great thing. If we're doing the good and bad, we're judging ourselves all the time. Then it's the shoulds and it's the, I failed and I feel awful. And it fucks with our self-esteem and our self-worth so much. Yeah. Especially now for you when you're doing this stuff independently, not based on trying to make parents proud or other people. It's for me. Okay. Well, how do we know if we're doing well? Yeah. Am I being effective or not? Right? Am I growing?
Yeah. And that's the question I have too. It's like, what's my barometer? How do I judge that? Where is that level of like, I mean, other than trial and error, like, which I don't think is a bad thing. I just don't want a lot of errors right now.
Right.
I'm down to try. I just don't want a lot of errors in that process.
There's a lot of things that are unknown, uncertain, which for you is horrible. And we're just not used to it. We'll say that, right? And that's where a lot of the discomfort is. And that's a function of what's going on in your life right now. And I think a way to start to think better and feel better about that is rather than criticizing ourselves and Vader voicing it, right? It's just going, all right, well, am I present? Am I growing? Asking those kinds of questions. Am I learning? It's going to be harder to get a sense of achievement or accomplishment that way. But I think we talked about this a while ago too, the adventure versus the challenge mentality. Where the challenge mentality is, here's an obstacle or here's something in front of me that I need to win. I need to beat. I need to get through it. And the whole crux of a challenge is, did I pass or fail? And it doesn't matter which it is. We're looking at the outcome is pass or fail, good or bad, meet the challenge or not. And adventure mentality is more based on experiencing something and being present for it. It's less rooted in what the outcome was and more in terms of, was I there for it? Journey, not destination kind of thing, right? Was I present? Yes. Okay.
I'm realizing now that my perspective of who I am and what I think it is to be a Christian man, I'm kind of fusing those together. Because I kind of had like a wild boy side, and then I also have like the church side, and I always got confused on which one was right. And now I'm kind of blending them to find like my perfect harmony of the two. Because I realized that like adventure doesn't necessarily have to mean, like, it's not bad. There's a lot of fun in not knowing, in that scaredness mentality of like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Right.
And so I'm trying to find those in a good way.
What does it mean to you?
Right.
And not to you in terms of your pastor, the church, your parents,
right?
But in terms of you and your present life and your understanding of that and how you want that to be.
I always thought I had to be different. I had to go to church a certain way and dress a certain way. But it's just, I think I'm becoming okay with having more adventure and wanting to have, and allowing myself to want to have more adventure like that.
Yeah, that doesn't mean I'm a bad Christian or a bad person or even an ineffective person if I'm being present for this. If at the very end we get up to the pearly gates and St. Peter's like, all right, before you come in here, what was it like down there? And if you just go, well, I was good. Okay, but what was it like? Because we let you go down there and be a human for 90 years. Like, what was your experience? What do you mean? I was of service to you the whole time. No, what was your experience? I don't know. I don't know if it, for you, it's enough to go, I was of service and I had purpose. You're shaking your head.
Absolutely not.
What do you want to be able to say?
Well, I mean, it's funny. When I first moved down here, a couple of days before I moved down, the land of Sodom story came up. And Sodom at the time was like Sin City, Las Vegas. You could do whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted to do it, right? In that, he loses himself in the land of Sodom, but then gets saved at the end of it. Long story short. And I always kind of thought Los Angeles was my Sodom. And I kind of moved down here with that mentality of like knowing like how crazy this place is and like, and not wanting to lose myself in it. And I think I almost did there for a second. And now I'm kind of on the other side of it on the saving. Okay, now we're kind of calming down again, realizing like where I'm at. And now I think I'm getting more into the mentality of like, I can actually help people here with everything that's going on. I don't really know how yet or why, but that's kind of where I'm trying to get at.
Sometimes we have to get lost to be found, right? And sometimes we have to go through things. And there's several things I like that highlight that. One of them is my favorite book, first one on the shelf right here, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. And it's sort of the story of like the Buddha. It's an idea of what he went through to get to where he was, right? And I take that, like that's the Buddha, right?
Right.
But also the Amish. Well, a lot of teenagers, they get to a point where they're allowed to leave the Amish society and go experience, the world however they want to. They call it, I think, Rumspringa. They used to call it rump shaker. You get to go out there and shake your rump at parties and do crazy things with the idea being, get that out of your system. And most that do that will actually come back to the Amish country and culture and go, yes, and now I choose this willingly. right?
Yeah.
Because I've gone through all this, I needed to, in a sense, get lost.
Mm.
And I think for you, LA is that Sodom, is that rump shaker, is that getting lost.
Yeah.
And now you're getting to find yourself. Now, how do I really want to be? I kind of know my integrity and my character, and let me start applying it, see where it works and where it doesn't.
Yeah.
Let me have this part of the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the part of the adventure, which was getting lost in, whether it was an ex-girlfriend or a job or weed, or whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
I went through that so I could be where I am now. We think about that.
Yeah, I totally agree with it. And I say this all the time. I think everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everything that's happened in the last 24 years has happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think it's all happening to prepare me for whatever is next. I just want to make sure I'm staying active. And I want to stay learning. I want to stay growing. And I want to keep going. And I think even work right now, what I'm doing, I sit in an office about this size by myself. And I just sit on my computer all day. I don't have human interaction. It's not mentally healthy and progressing me right now. And so I think learning all of that, I think we talked about this last week too, of the clean break and just kind of like stepping away from everything. I was going to say once I have the ability, I don't think it's that I don't have the ability to, I just don't have the safety net under me right now. Like I don't have that next step.
Yeah. Almost what you're looking for is I want the confidence to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I would go, we get the confidence from having done it and knowing that I can.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what we need first is the courage to do the thing that I'm afraid of. And once I've been able to do that a few times, that will translate to confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we wait around for confidence to hit.
Yeah.
You
can't.
No, you can't. It doesn't work. Liquid courage. I can drink it up. I can smoke it up. But no, that's not lasting.
Right.
That's not giving you the real experience. In fact, it's a negative because it shows you can do it when you drink, smoke, or do that.
Yeah.
That's not the way we want to do it.
Right.
We want it to be real, true growth and lasting. So doing it from a place of fear is okay. Where there's fear, there's courage. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
So it's knowing I got to do the courageous thing, which means it's going to feel a little scary and it's going to feel a little uncomfortable. And I will learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I will become competent at that thing. And then I will become confident in myself.
I like that where my brain is like clicking. I usually 9.5, 10 at a times will smoke before I go out to meet somebody for lunch, dinner, whatever, shopping, whatever it is, I'll smoke. And I think hearing what you just said, it's because I am lacking that confidence of, because even thinking till I was like 14, 15, going to a high school party, I always smoked before I went out because I wasn't confident enough in what I was bringing to the table.
Right.
And so I was the stoner kid bringing pot, hey, let's try to smoke. And we'd all click on that level. So I'm still stuck in that state where it's like I went out Wednesday night, I had drinks with this girl and like it was cool, but like I still smoked before I went. Still had a good time, still cool, enjoyed it, but not nearly to where I could have. Didn't have the conversations that I could have had.
I wasn't present as I could have been.
Right.
And that's, it's funny, bring it back to clear mind, full heart. It wasn't a clear mind at all. In fact, you were adding more into it than you were taking something away. Although, I'll reverse on that for a second. Getting high before I go out doesn't give you confidence.
Right.
It helps you deal with the fear and the anxiety. So in a sense, it's adding more into that and keeping that stuff there. It's going, I will be a little anxious, a little scared, and a little high.
Mm-hmm.
That will get me through this thing. But I won't have the clear mind to be present for it and have that true adventure mentality. I'll just be challenged. I got through it. I did it.
Yeah, exactly. It was a challenge. I got through it. I did it. I get home, I'm like,
Right. Got home. Yeah. All right. How was it?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think there's an idea here that if you think of, for you, weed in particular, as not the thing that gives you confidence, but the thing that clouds the fear and the anxiety. So the fear and the anxiety are there still. They're just a little cloudy and you can deal with it when it's cloudy.
Yeah.
But that's not going through it. Double down, don't shut down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Doubling down is going, wait, okay, I'm a little scared. I'm a little anxious. And with that, and I do the thing, that's where courage comes from. I need the courage to do it. And that's going to build the confidence where I can go, yes, I can.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Then I can be present for that adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the adventure, my friend, is fucking up sometimes too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, ooh, did I say that? Right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's life. That's being human.
Mm-hmm. It's part of it.
Yeah. When we hold ourselves to the standard of I have to get it all right, then it's too scary. Then it's too much. Then we'll get high so we can get through the challenge of that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I want to throw in brother's wedding into this conversation. I even thought about it. I was like, oh, I'll bring my weed pens, like a good weekend. I'll get stoned, drink a little bit, have a good time. Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it. And it's like, I'll still probably bring weed, like honestly, but I think I want to get to the point in the next couple of weeks to where I can not smoke through the wedding.
Yeah.
Out of fear.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. You saw that. You saw me.
Yeah,
right? Like, you can, if you choose to.
Right.
We can throw in choice and obligation, same way we're throwing in adventure and challenge.
Right.
I can choose to smoke weed, but if I feel obligated, if I have to get through, that's a crutch. Now that I have the choice, I'm taking myself out of that obligation, out of that challenge mentality.
Yeah.
Can I get through my brother's wedding? Of course you can get through his fucking wedding. But can I be present for it? Can I have an adventure?
I do want to be able to, like, one, be present enough to have like a full conversation with new people. I think it's a respect thing for my brother to be able to do that on a certain level. I want to respect him and show him I'm there present for him. I want to explore that a little bit more on what that looks like in the next couple of weeks too. I don't know.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of unknown with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the adventure. Right. Is that it is unknown. Part of it, we talked about going down the out of bounds trails,
mm-hmm.
right? Because we don't know what's there. And that's exciting to a degree. So looking at the wedding in that sense, in that adventure sense, in that sense of choosing to go out of bounds and go somewhere that's not well groomed and more, and I can see you smiling, like thinking about it a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Part of your mindset has been building up to the wedding, even the bachelor party. We were talking about that too.
Yeah.
Like building up to it as this thing that I need to like somehow meet that challenge, rise to that challenge, or lower to that challenge, depending on what it is, right? I think if we look at it as an adventure, then there's actually some of that, I think, acceptance and allowance for it to be unknown. Same way you said, I like the ocean. It's so big. There's so much out there, and looking up at the sky and seeing the Milky Way. There's so much that I just don't know. And you even said there's something I really like about that.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've heard you like describe something vast and unknown as being a positive for you.
Yeah. And I think switching that mentality more of an adventure, not a challenge, is huge. Yeah, it's an adventure. But I think I do this a lot, is where I'll put like a marker in like my year, where I'm like, okay, brother's wedding's right here. I just need to get to here. I need to do what I need to do here to get to here.
Right.
What's after? And I can think about different scenarios where I do that a lot, where it's like, I just need to get to that one marker. And I don't know if that's like a good thing or like
ineffective.
Yes. Is it effective or ineffective?
Right. I'll highlight this by telling you about a camping trip I took in Colorado with a couple guys, backpacking, spending 5 days going across the Rockies.
Dope.
Right?
Dope.
A couple of 14,000 foot peaks that we were going to hit.
Damn.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Carrying like fucking 60 pounds on your back. It was gnarly. Right?
Yeah.
And it was awesome for the most part. We went up the first peak and it was crazy. Like you go up super early. It's still dark. Like we're hiking with like headlamps on and all that shit. Right.
Yeah.
We get up to the top and you really have to focus on that one thing you're doing. And we got down, we set up camp that night. I was like, hey guys, that was awesome. I don't want to do the second peak. I'm good. We're in a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted. And if we have to wake up at 4 a.m. to go do it again, right? I was like, fuck, no, sorry. Yeah, ain't going to do it. I'm going to go around. And they both were like, yeah, we don't need to do the second one. Let's just chill and let's soak it in.
Yeah.
And let's spend the next day like appreciating the scenery of where we are. And you're nodding like
yeah.
Right? So I'm glad that we had a challenge mentality to get up and like, I did it. I did that challenge. Yes. Right. Sure. That was great. I'm also glad we had an adventure mentality. We're all in agreement of that. Right. And we're able to just go, let's be here. Let's have this experience. So it's not always about pushing yourself to something. It's sometimes just about, can I be here now? And what's this like? If we were just looking at that marker of 14,000 feet, like you said, what's next? There's another one. Yeah. It's just another marker over there. Okay, I can do that. Then my year is just going to be a series of markers. I can also take that marker off and just go, all right, well, let me just be. And what's this like?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try that for a while, just being. Because like even if I think about 2018, I see markers. It's never like a fluid memory. It's always like this happened and that happened and that happened. It was never like a constant fluid thought.
Right.
I might confuse that with my blackouts too, to where it's like I just don't even think about remembering it, so I don't remember it.
Right.
And I just want to be present again.
Yeah. That's kind of the primal brain.
Yeah.
Like I got so geared for this confrontation, this challenge, whatever it was. All my defenses were up and I got through it and I did it. That's like getting up to the pearly gates, high-fiving St. Peter and going, I did it.
Yeah.
Like, you did what?
Yeah.
I got here. Like, everybody gets here. How was it down there?
Yeah.
You'd be like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I did good. What's good? Effective. Effective for what? What was your experience? What was your adventure there? Completely different mindset than we're used to. And for you, it's going to be both liberating and scary and uncomfortable, new, different. And we'll just have to see how that goes.
Yeah. Dipping a toe in.
Yeah, dipping a toe in, feeling it out. Absolutely. I think you're perfectly suited for this now because you've got all the tools. You're more Green Beret than you realize.
Yeah.
It's just that gearhead mentality, that challenge mentality, like softening that. Yeah, I can talk to these guys at this wedding. I don't know how it's going to go, but I know who I am. I'm cool.
Yeah.
That's self-worth.
Yeah, and I think it's getting stronger. I think every day it's getting stronger here and there, but overall better.
It's funny. You used to say to me, you still do, I think it's the little things. I think it's the little things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the little things add up.
Yeah.
And you can have one big thing, fine, okay, but you have a lot of little things and you're giving yourself repeated experience of it.
And you start appreciating the little things again. That's another perspective shift I'm trying to make. Because again, the markers are my big things where it's like, that's easy to be appreciative of, because you work so hard for whatever. And I think, I've said this since day one of slowing down and trying to smell the roses. I'm still trying to get there. I'm still working for that.
And I'll go Yoda on you just for a second.
Yeah.
With Yoda's words.
Yeah.
You're not trying to do that.
Yeah.
You're doing that.
Yeah.
There is no try, only do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's always going to go perfectly.
Right.
Always going to go effectively.
Yeah.
If we have this mentality, when it doesn't go effectively, it's growth opportunity, not failure, not crippling.
Yeah, growth opportunity.
Yeah. And we are back.
We sure are.
Remember when I used to say to you, what did you think, Meredith?
And I said, it's amazing.
Not so much anymore. Now you're just like, yeah, whatever, Doug.
Yeah. So this was a good one. This was a lot of insight on little Drew's part, I will say. Right. Yeah. Actually, one of the things he said, he has a big next step to make this season, which is really important for future seasons. Do I know what that big step is? Or did he just mean life in general? I'm just trying to
Yeah. Life in general,
okay.
Kicking off some of the things that he wants to do.
Okay.
There was some stuff that got cut from the beginning of this episode because there were too many identifiers. I think I might have referenced it later. Actually, two things that you don't hear in this particular episode. One was when he mentions having a clear mind, full heart. And I talk about, that's the name of my practice.
Yeah.
All of that we put into the recap episode. So we didn't want to put it back into this episode because it would be redundant. But he kind of went off on surfing and how he likes to surf.
Yeah, that was confusing.
And just feeling the ocean, right? So I made reference to it later in this session, but he did it was in part that got clipped out of here about him talking about feeling more alive and feeling more himself when he's in the ocean or when he's surfing.
Yeah, we should hear about that sometime. But because then you said, well, so I'll just jump in. So he brought up weed and smoking a lot of weed. And he talked about how he's been smoking, basically, in his words, because I can. And
right. And he meant if he's in a situation like showing up to work where it's not appropriate,
yes,
he wouldn't,
Right.
But this was like, oh, it's kind of like everybody's doing it there. And okay.
Right. And so he's saying he wasn't as vulnerable and not as present. And that in the last 2 to 3 weeks, he's been smoking all day, every day. And he had mentioned switching up his routine and trying different things and like, having my coffee and reading the morning paper and just trying to find one that felt right or just experiment with different ones. And then said, well, now this weed smoking is become my routine too.
Right.
So, and then you mentioned about being present, and then you talked about surfing and blackouts. And I'm like, I don't fucking know what you're talking about. Like
part of that, just a part, was from earlier in the session that got clipped about him feeling very much present when he's surfing, very much in tune and there.
Right.
And some of that is just kind of going back to what we had been talking about in weeks prior about just being present for something and his history of blackouts and just going on autopilot, which you might remember we talked about that before too.
I see. I was like, what are you talking about? I got very confused. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying for all of us.
Yeah. And part of it is it's been several weeks since we've had a session with Drew, but for Drew, he's here every week.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
It makes sense, right?
That does make sense. Okay. Yeah. Also talked a lot about smoking weed in social situations and like going on a date, anytime he goes out with friends, basically anytime he does anything. Anytime he goes out, he said pretty much like 9 out of 10 times I'm smoking weed.
Right.
And about the courage and the confidence. And you were talking about that cycle of like, oh, I'm going to get the confidence and then I'll be courageous. And you're like, no, other way around, or it's a cycle, right?
Yeah. And that's, when he's telling me about this, what I'm hearing is not, I need to stop smoking weed, help me stop smoking weed, replace my behavior, and it's just kind of helping him see there's something incongruent to him about the behavior he's engaging in and where he wants to be and what he wants to do.
Totally.
That's why, I do it more gradually and kind of look at, okay, well, yeah, there's a kind of haze on some things. Yeah. And it's a little more cloudy. Okay. And letting him come to these realizations about it. I think also recognizing that it does reduce his social anxiety. Okay. Well, let's look at the social anxiety. Let's look what that, what that means and how we combat that rather than, I think I used the liquid courage line, with alcohol. Like that's, it's something that I know is in him, meaning the idea of being vulnerable and saying, I feel really awkward right now. He can do that, but it's much easier and more ingrained in him to just smoke some weed and just not feel awkward.
Totally. I mean, by the way, sounds great in a way. I think,
Sure.
what I got from it for me, which was, it basically was, what is it in my life, whether it's smoking weed or whether it's lack of awareness, what is it in my life that is preventing me from being totally present and engaged? And what helps me get to that place? And if smoking weed helped him be totally present and engaged and clear mind and, then great. Right. I mean, I don't know that that's a thing I'm sure that happens for some people, but to his point, it does not.
Right. And kind of what you're describing is a coping mechanism. It's great until it isn't. It works until it doesn't.
Right.
And then it's so ingrained and it's hard to get rid of, but it's something that you can look at. And if you lean into what the anxious feeling is, what's going on there, then there's something we can do about that, which he's starting to get to.
Right. I mean, we know that weed is habitually addictive, not physically addictive. And the habit, it's the same thing as coffee, although actually coffee is physically addictive.
Right.
So I think the idea though is, there are a lot of people and things and whatever it is that we do to feel comfortable in our own skin, if that is providing you a good quality of life, then great, right? And good quality of life is up to you. But if, you say to me, you know what, like I do a bunch of cocaine and I drink a lot and I love my work and I'm really happily married and and everything's great. I'll be like, cool. If that's working for you and you have a good quality of life, granted, like maybe get some, like your heart checked out or whatever, because I don't know that it's good for you long term, but who am I to judge?
I don't know. I would challenge that. I would challenge that and kind of look at that, because those are, I mean, traditionally and scientifically not the best behaviors to engage in, right?
Why?
Cocaine is not good for you. Neither is alcohol in excess.
In excess. But my point is, but we don't also know. Someone actually told me recently that like they actually meditated for too long at some point, like in a moment, like hours. Anything I think in excess can be not good for you, right? It doesn't matter if it's something that you put in your body or you're doing. I did too much yoga and it wrecked my body.
Right.
So I do think it's individual. I am not encouraging. Just say no to drugs. Okay. Just say no. Don't do cocaine because of me. However, you know me, my motto is whatever works.
Sure. And I think that's true to a degree. Whatever works, if it's working as a coping mechanism, as a defense, then that's great that it's working, but you're defending and coping with something that you can't otherwise tolerate or deal with. Totally.
So
as a therapist, I go with, let's lean into that. What is that thing? Can we find other ways to do it that are either more healthy or more authentic for who you want to be? I've said it to clients before. I was like, look, if you want to be a cocaine snorting, drinking guy or girl, great. I'm going to help you be the best version of that you can be.
Totally. That's what I'm saying, basically. Yeah.
Right.
If it's not as a defense mechanism, if it's not as a coping skill, but it's just, this is what makes me happy in my life. It feels good.
We can even say exercise or work.
I used to have compulsive overexercising issues.
Exactly.
Yep.
You know, and people can do that. And we don't look at that as such a negative the same way we look at cocaine as such a negative. We go, oh, they're a workaholic, but that's cool.
Right.
Oh, they exercise a ton. Yeah, they're doing another Ironman triathlon or something. Right. But if you look at, okay, are they just taking this sort of addictive personality or this obsessive nature? Are they using it and just channeling it with something quote unquote healthier? And we're still not getting to the root of what they can't tolerate, what they can't process, what they're coping or defending against.
Yeah. I think I had mentioned that I went to treatment for drugs and for eating disorders. And when I got out, I was completely sober, not taking anything for 2 years. And then I decided I wanted to drink. So I started drinking again. I drink now. And initially, and even to this day, I have a huge awareness as to why I'm drinking. So there are times where I'm like, fuck this day. I need a drink because I don't want to deal anymore.
Sure.
And if that ever is the case, then I'm very, very aware of it. And then there are times where I'm socially drinking or this drink is amazing. And it's not, it's not to shove anything down or cope with anything. It just is. And so I think that's sort of the difference with everything.
Yeah. And that's something where you can make that choice. Some people aren't able to make that choice. And you used to say this about me, still do, that I can sample anything. Like I don't have that addictive personality, right?
Right, for sure.
Some people do. So, oh man, I've had a shitty day. Let me grab a drink. And then it becomes habitual. And then that's what they do. And then they're stuck.
Right. So you can have the awareness of it, but just having the awareness of your intention of why you're doing something. So why is he smoking weed right now? Oh, he feels anxious and he's going to use it to help liquid courage. Right. And as opposed to,
my life is too difficult. I can't deal with all this crap going on. So I'm just going to drink and Yeah. But,
I just want to watch a funny movie, get high and chill at home and like feel good. Great.
Right.
So it's just looking at the intention behind it, or not judging it, by no means judging it, but it sounded like he was feeling incongruent, which is why I stopped doing drugs and eventually, because I just felt incongruent with my life and how it made me feel.
Right.
And my lack of being present. And it sounds like he's starting to question that, which is great. Totally great.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like he used to smoke weed all day, every day. So that sounds like, and he did say, I'm getting lazy and tired.
Right. And he's had a relationship with weed for over a decade.
Right.
Since he was an early teenager, and it has been a coping mechanism for him, and he's aware of it.
Totally.
And like you just said, he's starting to look at these things. I think sometimes as therapists, I've heard people jump the gun a little bit, where somebody will mention drinking a little more than they want to. And the therapist is like, oh, well, let me give you some resources for AA. And here's this. And here's like, whoa. And you laugh because it's right. You just got to stay with them.
True.
It's their journey. It's their journey, not our agenda.
Right. Totally. And at that point, you brought up sort of the idea of constant learning and growth and saying, am I present? Am I growing? Am I learning? And I liked that little trio of questions.
Yeah. Thanks.
And it was my favorite thing that you talked about. Was effective versus ineffective. Cause I say that all the time. I can't, it's hard for me to even say good and bad anymore, even though, this ice cream is good and that one's bad. But I think there are some right and wrongs and good and bad, I guess. But for the most part, even when I'm talking about myself having nothing to do with clients or, I'll just say, it's just not really effective. So I loved how he really clicked into that and really liked it and just said, he brought up effective and he said, what's good for me? What's going to keep me going, And I love that.
Right. Yeah. And that was, I took that from you. I mean, you hammer effective and ineffective all the time. So whenever I hear myself saying good and bad, I catch myself. I can hear you in my head. I'm like, oh man, all right. Effective and ineffective. Like there we go. Right. So you're a good influence in that sense.
Thanks. I'm an effective influence.
That's right. It's really good.
Yeah. Because the difference is for some people, what's good for one person is not necessarily good or effective for another person. So it's just the descriptor, I think it's hard. You talked about the adventure versus challenge mentality, which I really liked. And then I started questioning it. So you said adventure is less rooted in outcome. And then challenge is pass or fail. And I had to really think about the difference between a challenge and something that's challenging.
Right.
Because there is something that's challenging does not have to result in pass or fail, right?
Absolutely. Something that's challenging could be growth. It could be an adventure. That's different. Totally
exactly.
Different.
Right. Because I was thinking in DBT, we talk about mastery, which is doing something that is challenging or difficult, but we do it anyway. And maybe we're glad we did it. Maybe we'll never want to do it again. And yet, it's the idea of trying to tackle something that brings up a little fear or anxiety or a lot of fear or anxiety. And I was thinking, well, is that a pass or fail? Not necessarily, except for did I complete it or not? I mean, right? So it's kind of, you are right in that. But I love how adventure is for sure less rooted in outcome.
Absolutely. So yeah, the example that I gave about backpacking in Colorado, and being able to have that adventure mentality of just being present for this experience. And
then being done.
Right. Done. Right. Because it wasn't about the outcome. I didn't need to do another one.
Yep.
I did the challenging thing by going up one 14,000 foot peak. I'm like, cool, I'm done. I don't need to do it again. I've had the challenge. Now I want to have the adventure. Ironically, my drive out to Colorado from California, I was initially thinking I could do it in 2 days. No problem.
Dumbass.
And my sister, bless her, was like, why? So I could just get there. Why? I don't know.
Doing mind versus being mind.
Right. And she's becoming a therapist. So it's great.
Yay.
And not even as a therapist, this is just who she is and how she and I talk and have always talked.
Yeah.
And she kind of went, well, what if you just, instead of doing 2 9-hour drives, what if you did 4 4-hour drives? What? I could do that? Yeah. She literally said, why don't you have an adventure? You've got Beckett with you. You're going to hit the road.
That's awesome.
Go to some places, do some things. Oh, okay. All right. I'll do that.
What's the rush? You had no rush.
No. And it wasn't that challenge mentality of I could do it. Let me push through. There was no reason to. It was, oh, can I have an adventure? Sometimes we do need to, get up for a challenge. If I had to be in Colorado in 2 days,
exactly.
It would be a challenge to get there. And I would have to do that. And I would, right?
Right.
So sometimes that's why some people say, and I've heard people challenge me on this and say, isn't everything an adventure? How come everything, shouldn't everything be an adventure? Why does anything have to be a challenge? I'm like, well, sometimes you have to get through something, right? But can't you do it in an adventurous way? I'm like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. You can.
Right. I mean, that's like Wyatt, when we were talking, or not we, I was talking with him on his sort of story about cancer and going through that. Chemo was a challenge. I think he and I had worked on adventure and challenge, and he was like, oh yeah, it was just endure. It was just get through this.
Yeah.
It was a challenge. There was no adventure to be had. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive, but I think a lot of the time, like you said, adventure is less rooted in outcome. I suppose it can be.
Right. Totally.
Okay. So Christian man. Okay. So he said, and I put a blank. He said, I have the blank side and the church going side. I don't know what the blank side was. Wild side?
Yeah. He said like, I have a wild boy side.
Okay. I didn't know what it was. Okay. And that he's starting to blend the two, which I love because
right.
You know me, I always talk about a pie, slices of the
good, the bad, and the plaid.
Yeah, slices of the pie, and that we all, 10 slices. We have so many different parts to us. So you can be wild guy, you can be a church guy, you can be.
Yeah, and 10 slices. I mean, Thanksgiving's coming up. If it's pecan pie or pecan pie, however you say it,
right?
10 slices is a lot. It can be really sugary. Like I love having one slice of pecan pie, one slice of apple, maybe a lemon meringue thrown in it, like vary it up. Like don't just have 10 slices of the same pie.
Sure. We're not eating any of these pieces of pie.
I don't know how that relates to anything. I just wanted to talk about pie.
I loved how you said, I think it was, you said, all right, so you get to the pearly gates and they're like, all right, how was it? And you're like, good. Right. And they're like, good. You sent you down there 90 years down there and all you have to come back with is good. Like, what was it like? Tell us about the details. Tell us about the adventure. Like what happened? And he's like, oh, well, I just served you. And they're like, what?
Right.
How it doesn't have to just be the church goer. It can be everything.
Why I bring that one up is sort of the point of life is not to be a good person the whole way through. I mean, that's nice if that's your integrity. It's to actually have the experience of being alive, of being here, of being present.
Right.
Right. And that even kind of goes back to that idea of being in that weed haze. That's not being present.
Right.
It's sort of like getting up to the pearly gates going, how was it? Well, I made it through.
Right.
Like, that wasn't the point.
Right.
The point was to be there, right? And experience it.
And I think a lot of people can relate to just getting through, just wanting to get through. And maybe that's only certain parts in your life or certain days or, years, depending on your life and situation. But it's just like, I can barely put one foot in front of the other. I am literally just getting through. And that's okay.
Well, 2020, hello.
2020 is just getting through for a lot, most of the world, for sure.
Yeah.
You said part of the adventure is fucking up sometimes too.
Totally. Not getting it right all the time. And being okay that you might mess up. And that's where, going back to the 3 questions you loved, like, am I learning?
Mm-hmm.
Did I grow? Am I getting something out of this? Like that's okay. That's something wonderful about sometimes failing and not doing well or making a mistake. Like, okay.
There also it's totally fine to not be present or growing or learning in sometimes, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
That's too much. We don't need to be doing that 24 hours a day, all day. Sometimes I want to be absolutely mindless doing nothing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's me some nights on the couch.
Yeah.
100%.
Totally.
Like my brain has just worked enough. I want to shut it off. And that's when we're not, and we're hyper vigilant and we're always learning, always growing. I don't care if you're a Buddhist monk in an orange robe or, a deer in headlights, you're going to be in fight or flight mode in that heightened state.
Totally.
That heightened state of alert. Of like, okay, I got to learn something at every moment. Something's going to happen. I got to soak this in. Like, wow, that's so stressful and so hard to maintain.
So stressful. Yeah. Like, what can I get out of this? I don't know. Relax.
Right.
Who cares? We'll figure it out. So Siddhartha, you mentioned, one of my all-time favorite books.
Same.
If you haven't read it, read it. It's literally like 60 pages, I think. I don't know. It's a very
short.
Small, short book.
It's short. Yep.
But it's amazing.
So
and then he talked about Sodom, the land of Sodom. I don't even.
Sodom, as in Sodom and Gomorrah.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I don't know anything about that. So I did understand what he was getting at in terms of, I thought that LA, when he first came here, was like crazy party, like Sin City, whatever. And that now he's like not necessarily looking at it that way.
Sodom and Gomorrah are towns from the Bible, and it's sort of in direct contrast to the Garden of Eden. Like the Garden of Eden is this wonderful, divine place to live, and Sodom and Gomorrah was just horrendous. This is where all this horrible stuff was happening.
Wait, are they two separate places, or is that the name, Sodom and Gomorrah?
Sodom and Gomorrah, I think, are two different cities.
Okay. It's not all one word, right?
No. Sodom and Gomorrah.
Okay, just checking.
There's a lot in there.
Okay. You're like, read the Bible.
Yeah. I mean, I know enough of the Bible to know some of this. I'm not that well versed.
Yeah.
But it's...
Well, you did know enough about Rumspringa.
Oh, yeah. Rumspringa. Yeah.
So you threw that into...
Yeah. And there's... I mean, I love a lot of these references because a lot of it is based on thinking you have to be a good, not effective, but good person, right? Yeah. And whether it's him making the reference to Sodom or, being a good Christian or a bad Christian, what does that mean? Because people will look at him with like a sleeve tattoo and kind of like punk looking hairstyle or something. And they think, yeah, who's this punk kid? And what I think I even said it to him, like, you're probably being a better Christian than most of those people in church. If they're just putting on their Sunday best, and trying to keep up appearances, then they're not truly being a good Christian. And that's the whole thing. I mean, I think it's so ridiculous. Like, all right, come on, kids, put on your Sunday best and let's show everybody, let's keep up appearances and show everybody that we're good Christians, rather than let me actually be a good Christian.
I think it's a sign of respect dressing nicely, though.
That's true. I agree with that when that's true. When it's, we need to keep up appearances and project that we are being good.
Right,
in the eyes of the Lord. Well, the eyes of the Lord are watching you at all times. If you believe that, then you have to be a good person and integrous all the time. And it's not about, do you have a tattoo or do you smoke a cigarette? It's about, are you following, the faith the way it's supposed to be followed or the way that you interpret it, right? And he is somebody that does. It doesn't mean he never slips. Of course he does. Yeah,
but is it even a slip, right? Or is it just part of life? Is that the path we're supposed to be on?
It's both. And that's to me, that's the wonderful story of Siddhartha, is that he didn't start off being, like the Buddha. He had to go through some incredible journeys along the way to get there. Drew is very much on his journey. He's gone through some versions of Sodom and Gomorrah. He's gone through going to church and feeling like a good Christian and feeling like not a good Christian and finding his own way. And that's something that, means a lot to him. And part of what I think the therapy journey is about being able to find what it is to be authentic and be the you want to be. Right. Just feeling good about who you are as a human, whatever that means to you. Right. Even if you're Amish. I love it. There was a documentary in the early 2000s called The Devil's Playground. And it followed a bunch of teens in Amish country, and they were going on their Rumspringa, which again, I call Rump Shaker because it's all about like, cool, you can go out there and do whatever you want for a while to find yourself and then decide where you want to be. And I think several of them wind up deciding that they want to be back in Amish country and really do. Yeah. Like choose it rather than, they were obligated to continue to follow the faith. Oh, I want to watch that. Yeah, it's a cool one. I like that. So on a final note, he ends the session basically talking about his brother's wedding. Right. And how it's coming up and the thoughts of potentially not smoking weed, a respect thing for his brother. And then you brought up
he said not smoking weed throughout the wedding, ... And you said out of fear, right? So what is your intention behind smoking weed? If you're going to smoke it at the wedding because you want to, or if you're smoking it at the wedding because you're scared and anxious and you want that to help you.
Right. And that's even for him and for anybody, why the fear is there. Sometimes knowing that you could smoke weed to get through, if that's your coping mechanism, that's what you want to hold on to. You might not actually smoke weed. I've had clients that have had, a prescription for Xanax for anxiety, and they'll have one in their pocket when they go to an event, and just having it in their pocket helps them. And they wind up not needing it because they just knew they had something in case. So it quelled the fear enough that they didn't need to actually take the medication.
Totally.
Similarly, I think he might not need the weed, but knowing that he could, if he goes into it going, I'm not smoking weed, then he's taking away his defense mechanism, and it might be more fearful for him to be there that way. If he goes, yeah, I've got some and I could smoke it if I need to, but I'm going to see how it is to just be present.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear what happens.
Oh my God. I didn't tell you oh my God. That was crazy. They had their own kind of Rumspringa where the whole family was just so tweaked the night before. And the brother missed the wedding. He was late to his own wedding.
Now he's just fucking with us, you guys.
Yeah, totally fucking with you.
Yeah. Okay, well, so next week we'll hear as he gets closer to the wedding, right?
Getting closer. It's creeping up. And yeah, we're getting there. You're getting there. I'm getting there. We're all just getting there.
We're all just getting by.
That's right. And speaking of getting by, bye. Oh man.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see you next week, guys.